So where do I start with the new single-player DLC, Left Behind? Left Behind was and is a finishing touch to an already masterpiece in which delivered stellar acting, new mechanics, and much-needed nuances to the single player. Left Behind interconnects two events by reliving current and past experiences from Ellie. Naughty Dog takes us on a wild ride between two timelines to explain further into Ellie's backstory. The present experience is trying to save Joel's life, in which we really didn't get to see in the core game itself. The other, and prequel experience, is Riley and Ellie trying to rekindle their very special friendship. Due to Riley being away with the Fireflies for over 46 days now only returning with no remorse, Yanni King and Ashley Johnson's performance has raised the bar in motion capture acting, in which Yanni is not accustomed to but nonetheless a very talented actress with a recent role on the hit TV series Mad Men. In Left Behind, we are introduced to an earlier Ellie who naturally has a much different viewpoint on this post-pandemic world to which we know as The Last of Us. Ellie is a student enrolled in a military boarding school with tedious tasks and early morning drills. Ellie's best friend Riley, who has just spontaneously returned from the Fireflies, trying to reconnect her friendship with Ellie by making it up to her with a very friendly adventure to the mall. Yanni King and the Left Behind DLC was a fantastic touch to The Last of Us, going out with one more bang to top off the already exhilarating story told by Naughty Dog, trying to save Joel's life when he gets severely injured while at the university, as Ellie now has to pillage for supplies in the mall that they are taking refuge in while they are being relentlessly pursued by bandits that are still trailing them from the university. Naughty Dog has also introduced us to some new interactions and mechanics in which I truly enjoyed to the utmost extent. A new mechanic introduced us to the infected and the bandits being accessible simultaneously in one environment. This now makes for a more intense and enjoyable moment when pitted up against Naughty Dog's AI. Speaking of AI, a noticeable difference from the core game and the DLC was the increased challenge factor that I experienced when fending off these bandits. And I've noticed how much smarter that the bandits are when hiding, flanking, and attacking me. Considering now that the bandits now have to also contend with the infected, makes for a natural increase in bandit AI against the player itself. There are several moments where I felt truly vulnerable taking on the bandits no matter how well equipped I thought I was. Ellie now has to retreat and regroup quite often, making for intense moments when trying to survive, which ultimately creates a sincere feeling of vulnerability that you experience. Ellie's combat is a true risk and reward feel when taking on the AI. The infected are challenging too, but it seems that they were decreased to compensate for the increase of the bandit AI. Now the player must be more precise in their strategy to advance in the environment. The new mechanic was an excellent additive to the post-apocalyptic world, and I'm really excited to see how Naughty Dog will implement these new changes in The Last of Us 2. Moving on to graphics and lighting, in which both have greatly and obviously been increasing in cutscenes and gameplays alike. The flashlight, for instance, now has a much deeper feel to it, exposing more shadows and reflections, making a level of intensity not often seen in the core game itself. The rain and snow have also had big improvements, making these environments truly engaging and dynamic. The physics with the water and the falling snow itself are just truly an inspirational feat that Naughty Dog has accomplished with these physics. New interactions have also been introduced in many shapes and forms. The photo booth was a fun and responsive way in making alternate emotions with these characters and really making it feel authentic. Also was the Brickmaster Challenge, which I greatly enjoyed for some weird reason. Maybe it's because I once had an experience with windshields and a brick. Moving on, busting vehicles' windshields was very enjoyable, and it made a side challenge quite rewarding when successfully completing it. The arcade was a fantastic imaginative experience with Ellie and Riley, while Ellie was bringing her imagination to life with simple button prompt challenges and an exciting play-by-play analysis by Riley herself, which really brought enjoyment to a moment that I had in the arcade. The lightheartedness was a much-needed breath of fresh air, making a step back to really enjoy this prequel adventure. Great examples from Ellie's new joke book received from Riley, or trying on masks in the Halloween store. These new side games and engaging moments really made me feel like I was Ellie, an early teenager. albeit my agenda would be much different than theirs. I would have probably stayed in Winston's tent for a few more shots of that sweet hooch. There really weren't any disappointing moments other than the overall length and the inevitable ending to the Left Behind. I feel like Naughty Dog might have rushed this DLC. There could have been so much more to show and tell with this backstory, and especially the present side story that seemed like it was swept under the rug from the core game that should have been implemented. I had so little time to really enjoy the company of these characters. I would have liked to have seen the DLC finish, in my opinion, properly, with the turning of Riley and the impending execution by Ellie. I chose not to delve on the infamous kiss because there's just too much controversy about it, and which should not be a big deal, but was indeed an unexpected and crazy, mind-blowing event. But nonetheless, Naughty Dog chose to emphasize it for a reason. A reason that I'm still waiting to figure out. In conclusion, the DLC experience was fantastic and quite enjoyable. The improvements Naughty Dog has made to the single player has been very impressive and responsive. I realized that this was just a short DLC, but after playing it, I can't help but think, what does Naughty Dog have up their sleeve for The Last of Us 2? I admire the dedication from the developers of The Last of Us, and I commend them with praise for delivering a single-player DLC that is second to none. In last words, I'll say this DLC is fantastic. $15 for non-season pass holders is quite steep, but it's well worth it to a dedicated Last of Us fan. Yes, I think this DLC could have been better, but considering that this is the first single-player DLC that Naughty Dog has ever created and released, this makes me appreciate their talents and crave for more and more. This is a one-of-a-kind DLC.